Hey everyone, this week I've been driving this 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. The 5th generation 4Runner here has been on sale now since the 2010 model year, so that makes for a total of 13 model years that the 4Runner has now gone without a major redesign. The TRD Pro model is the top dog off-road trim level for the 4Runner. It debuted for the 2015 model year, and it has carried on largely the same all the way through to 2022 here. Not a lot has changed with the 4Runner over the years. It has gained some active safety features, but in terms of performance and powertrain and feature content, this thing has gone well over a decade without seeing much at all in the way of change. So let's do a little tour of the 4Runner here and then take it out for a drive, and then I'll give some more of my thoughts on kind of the duality of the 4Runner proposition, because on one hand, this vehicle is extremely dated and pretty much obsolete, but on the other hand, there's really nothing else like it, which makes it interesting and has resulted in really strong sales in recent years. So let's do the tour, then go for a drive, and then talk a little bit more about the 4Runner. So every year Toyota's TRD Pro line gets a special color, and this year the theme is lime green, but what people probably don't realize is that the two TRD Pro models for 2022, the 4Runner and the Tacoma, there isn't a 2022 Tundra TRD Pro, but the greens are different from the 4Runner to the Tacoma. I think that maybe has to do with where these vehicles are built. So the 4Runner is built in Japan and the Tacoma is built in Mexico. But this green is called Lime Rush, and it's a little bit pale, a little bit silvery. And then the green on the Tacoma TRD Pro is called Electric Lime Metallic. It's a little bit brighter. Anyway, with that bit of trivia out of the way, we've all seen 4Runner TRD Pros over the years. So Toyota word mark across the grille, hood scoop, similar, same as the TRD off-road model. No Rigid Industries fog lights like you get on the Tundra and Tacoma. These are 17-inch wheels. You can get 16s on the Tacoma, but from what I understand, 17s are the smallest that will fit on the 4Runner because of its brakes. The 4Runner TRD Pro comes in Nitto Terra Grappler all-terrain tires. That's also different than the Tacoma, which comes with Goodyear Wrangler all-terrains. Anyway, TRD Pro suspension is kind of the big selling point. So it's co-branded with Fox. Up front are internal bypass shocks. There's actually a piggyback reservoir at the rear. And then there's also this 1/4-inch aluminum skid plate with TRD embossed or kind of stamped on it there in red. It's like a plastic piece that they set into an embossed TRD imprint. Anyway, this is plastic, so your skid plate starts down there, and there you go. The suspension does level the truck out, so it sits a little bit higher up front, a little bit higher in the rear too, and I believe these wheels achieve a barely wider front track. Up top is this roof rack. I've never been a fan of this roof rack. It's obviously designed to mimic some of the more functional aftermarket overland roof racks that you'll see out there. So I'll just climb up here. So it's kind of a basket style, but it's really just a U-shaped part that fits into the factory roof rack mounting points. So it's just mounted in 4 places, 2 per side. And then they basically use crossbars to achieve kind of this basket shape. So if you look at it like that, yeah, the basket kind of goes from, say, here all the way back to here, but the crossbars are curved, which is weird. I mean, that's not really helpful. You want flat crossbars. And yeah, they're kind of just repurposed crossbars meant to make for a basket shape. Kind of weird. I think they should have just designed an actually functional roof rack, or maybe sought out the help of an aftermarket supplier, because there are tons and tons of them these days. But I have to think Toyota was constrained by, I'm assuming, lawyers and engineers who said maybe the basket portion couldn't go further than here, or they probably couldn't add mounting points. Everything had to be structurally sound. I'm sure they had considerations for wind noise. That's why they've got these kind of wing-shaped crossbars here that I imagine cut down on wind noise. But yeah, anyway, feels like a gimmick. I think Toyota should dignify its customer a little bit more with a more functional rack. But here we are. Here's the 4Runner TRD Pro's Shriner hat of a roof rack. Anyway, moving on. TRD Pro on the ABC pillar here. It's black. We've all seen that badge before. Moving around back, not much in the way of badging. So it says 4Runner, there's your Toyota emblem, and then once again, TRD Pro right here. To open the rear hatch, this nearly smacks me in the face every time I open it. So I have to step way back. It's just an enormous hatch due to the 4Runner's really boxy and frankly charming shape. Once you're back here, it's pretty functional. You can get this truck with a slide out cargo tray, but this one doesn't have it, which frees up a bunch of extra space. It's often included as an accessory, but no cargo tray back here. You do get tie down points, 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a 400 watt, 120 volt 3-prong AC inverter. You turn it on via a button up on the dash, and then there's a 12 volt outlet there as well. Then little storage here, little storage here. Not sure what you'd use that for, and it looks like there is provisions for a cargo cover and a cargo net. The spare tire on the 4Runner lives underneath because this is a body on frame truck derived SUV. So you don't get, well, yeah, you don't even get a matching tire. It looks like it's a Bridgestone dueler, yeah. Some kind of Bridgestone dueler spare mounted on a steel wheel there. So you couldn't do a 5-tire rotation. Theoretically, you could buy a 5th TRD Pro wheel and a 5th Nitto Terra grappler and stick it up under here and then do a 5-tire rotation. I'd honestly consider that if I owned one of these, but no, Toyota gives you just a basic, cheap, run-of-the-mill spare here, even on the top tier 4Runner TRD Pro. You do get a 2-inch receiver hitch, and yep, there is also a 7 and 4-pin connector right there, and a nice heavy-duty recovery point bolted into the frame just on the driver's side here. No power operation for this rear hatch. It's all manual, so you get 1, 2 little grabs on the outside or underside there, and then a loop for, maybe if you wanted to do that, but ooh, that is a heavy hatch. For someone smaller than me, that would be even more difficult to close. Let's go ahead and climb inside. We'll take a look at the key first. Here it is. This key hasn't changed like the rest of the 4Runner. This key hasn't changed in ages. So you got lock, unlock, and a panic button, and then just like a rubber kind of stick-on piece there with a Toyota emblem. So super basic key. I do appreciate that it's lightweight. I know this isn't deliberate on Toyota's part, but if you're going to be hiking or backpacking or mountain biking and you have to bring your car key with you, it's nice when the key is lightweight and relatively compact. Like Jeep has a really huge, heavy key. They try to make them look robust, and it just doesn't work for me. I want lightweight, I want compact, I want simple, I want something that I can hide away in my pocket and forget about until I need it again, and that's pretty much achieved via this 4Runner key here. So you do have passive keyless entry on the front doors, so there we go. So it will unlock if you have the key, say, in your pocket and you grab either of the front doors. $53,000 plus car, it had better have that feature. Climbing inside here, there's not a lot to see. Here's the window sticker. So you can see this is a 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. As equipped, it comes in at $53,435 when you factor in a $1,200 destination fee. The TRD Pro comes pretty much loaded. I mean, the only other 4Runner that kind of deviates from the Pro is the Limited. And in terms of functionality, the TRD Pro certainly best leverages the 4Runner's capabilities, and it comes with really all the features. Oh, as for powertrain, so it uses a positively ancient 4-liter V6. It puts out 270 horsepower and 278 pounds-feet of torque, and that is mated to a 5-speed automatic transmission. This, I'm pretty sure, is the only new vehicle left on the market that still uses a 5-speed. The limitations of that transmission are more than apparent when you're driving this car. It's not great. Nor is fuel economy. So the EPA rates the 4Runner at 16 city, 19 highway, and 17 combined. And here we are, nothing very high tech in the 4Runner's interior. We've all seen this Toyota information screen in the center of the gauge cluster here. No digital gauges, even on the fully loaded 4Runner. I just get basic mechanical gauges, so tachometer, speedometer. Infotainment system has been updated over the years, but it's still Toyota's last gen infotainment. They put out a new infotainment system with the new Tundra and the new Lexus NX. Unfortunately, that hasn't made its way to the 4Runner yet, nor do I think it will until the next generation 4Runner comes out, probably for the 2024 model year, it's looking like. But this infotainment has gotten better over the years. At least it now includes Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so you can bypass all the shortcomings of Toyota's native infotainment system. But you do get built-in navigation. The maps do have some forest roads, which is fun if you're going to be off-road camping with this, which if you're buying one of these, you should be doing that. Otherwise, just get a RAV4. You got nice clunky buttons here for the HVAC. So, I mean, who doesn't love a button for fan speed? Not only that, a big button. This is really great right here. It's old. It hasn't been changed in more than a decade, but it's not broken, and they haven't tried to fix it. Same goes with temperature gauges. These knobs feel really nice. They have a rubberized component to them, and they sound pretty good too. The 4Runner, across its different trim levels, uses a few different controls for manipulating the four-wheel drive system. We'll put it that way. So lower end, like SR5 models, they have a button for shifting from 2 high into 4 high into 4 low. The TRD Pro and the TRD Off-Road use this manual lever here, which is kind of charming. It reminds you maybe of a Toyota truck you had in the 1990s. So you've got 2 high, 4 high, and then you go over and up to neutral before hitting 4 low. And then the 4Runner Limited actually has a full-time four-wheel drive system, so that vehicle is always in 4 high. There's a button for a locking center differential, and then it's got a dial, I believe, for going into 4 low. Up top, you've got a square sunroof, no panoramic sunroof. That's not the name of the game with the 4Runner. Yeah, relatively big. Overhead, you've got some fun controls. So 4Runner TRD Pro comes with almost all the off-road features you can get in the 4Runner. We'll get to that in a moment. But that includes crawl control. So you got on, off. Unfortunately, you have to be in 4 low for pretty much all of these. Well, really all of these. But crawl control is Toyota's off-road cruise control system. They've had it on the market for, again, over a decade now. It's kind of clunky. Next generation crawl control, from what I understand, is better. But 4Runner still has old-fashioned first generation crawl control. It looks like you got 5 different speeds here. Over here is multi-terrain select. So again, turn it on and off, but you have to be in neutral to use, I'm pretty sure, all of them but mud, sand, and dirt. So you've got mud, sand, dirt, loose rock, mogul, and then rock. So kind of fun to have these buttons overhead here. Kind of reminds me of an airplane cockpit. Stability control off button, A-track on off button, and then the button for the locking rear differential. SOS button there, some lights, home link, nothing too exciting there. Something kind of cool, the 4Runner has always had this slide down rear window. It doesn't sound like a next generation 4Runner is going to have that. Kind of a bummer, but here's the control for it. So you can open and close the rear glass, and it's one touch up and down, which is nice too. So that's functional if you have to haul long items, if you have to load things and you don't want to open the rear hatch, or just if, say, you have like dogs and you want to vent the cabin. Let's go ahead and check out the back seat. Oh, there is a surround view camera system, but camera quality is pretty terrible, as is the backup camera. Okay, all right. Let's check out the second row. If you're going to be using one of these for camping, the rear seat goes down in 2 different parts. Again, body on frame truck. It's not designed like a crossover, so that's kind of where this funky seat folding feature comes from. So this lever actually reclines the seat, and then to put the seat down, you put the headrest down and then push this button, and down it goes. And then you've got kind of a flat floor back here, but if you're going camping with only 2 people, without a doubt, you'd just throw the second row bench down and you'd have plenty of space for all your things. Here's a little first aid kit attached to the back here. It attaches with Velcro. That's kind of a Toyota and Lexus staple accessory. Okay, here we are in the second row of the 4Runner. There's plenty of room back here. I'm about 5'10". That's where I have the seat if I'm driving. And you can see I've got a whole hand's worth of space between my knee and the driver's seat back. There are nets on both of the seat backs. You've got 2 USB-A ports on the back of the center console here. Kind of a bummer this vehicle doesn't use any USB-C. I feel like that would have been an easy thing for them to update with some of the small, tiny little changes they've done to this vehicle in recent years. But nope, you just get USB-A in the 4Runner. They really don't seem interested in updating this thing from a technology standpoint, at least not until the new generation comes out. Then HVAC vents on the back of the center console over here. One-touch power up and down windows. You've got overhead grab handles. Overall, interior quality is pretty nice. Kind of squishy. It's rugged. I shouldn't say it's nice. It's confidence-inspiring, we'll put it that way. But pretty plasticky. But the plastics are pretty good. And the overall design is charmingly 1990s. Over here, you've got a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders. Jeez, that looks like the cup holders on like a kit car from the 1990s or 1980s. Just two holes and a big piece of plastic there. Even this seatbelt feels like from a generation past. It's just a weird part. Okay, driving this 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro in lime rush exterior color. So this vehicle is very old school to look at and to feel, and it also feels very old school to drive. So the off-road suspension is pretty squishy. It's meant to be able to take big bumps off-road at higher speeds. I wouldn't say high speeds, but higher speeds than the stock suspension. And that means that on-road, you hit the brakes and it dives a little bit and it rocks back and forth. And the vehicle already sits kind of high and it's pretty blocky. So overall, it kind of makes for, you're doing a lot of this when you're driving one of these. But okay, let's see how these 200, a little bit of skidding or rear wheel drive. Let's see how these 270 horsepower work. So that's 40 miles per hour. There is 50, and I don't have enough room to safely hit 60. So this truck certainly isn't fast. 270 horsepower, 278 pounds-feet of torque from this ancient 4-liter V6. The 5-speed automatic doesn't do it any favors either. Again, though, it costs money to change things with a vehicle, period, but it costs a lot of money to rework the powertrain because then you've got to like recertify with the EPA and everything. So Toyota has just left all that alone for years and years and years, and the truck has sold well. So we can't really fault them for that, even though I'd like to see a better powertrain in this truck. But beyond that, the interior feels okay. Everything in here can be wiped off. So if you're in the desert or in the woods or in the mud and the interior gets dirty, it seems like it would be easy enough to clean. Of course, they could probably stand to do away with the carpeted floor pans because, again, you're probably going to be cleaning this interior a lot. But everything in here is pretty rugged, pretty functional. What I don't like is this TRD catback exhaust. You can probably hear it. Yeah, that's the exhaust. That's not this little V6. It's novel at first, like on the test drive, you'll probably think it's cool, but after a few miles, and especially after trying to carry on a conversation on the highway at even just 60 miles per hour, this thing, it drones and it drones and it drones, and it gets really old fast. I don't like this catback exhaust at all. It's kind of gimmicky. Here's our third speed bump. That was at about 28 miles per hour. Felt pretty good. Suspension feels nice. Feels pretty soft. It bounces around a fair bit, but I think that's part of the charm of this vehicle. You certainly have a commanding view of your surroundings. Visibility is really nice. It's still kind of a bigger vehicle, but it's still relatively easy to drive. Visibility helps with that a lot. Backup camera is junk, but that's kind of Toyota's thing. I don't know what's going on here. It's just worst backup camera on the market. There's a 360-degree top-down view, though, so there was a little bit of effort put forth. Okay, so that is my look at this 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. I mentioned before the duality of the 4Runner. On one hand, as a sum of its parts, this is a terrible vehicle. It's based on a nearly 15-year-old design. It gets horrible fuel economy. The powertrain, it's underpowered. The 4-liter V6 is nothing special. It uses a 5-speed automatic transmission. The approach, breakover, and departure angles aren't that great. And overall, this design from a technology standpoint, the active safety stuff is a generation behind. Overall, this vehicle is obsolete. But the thing about the 4Runner is it doesn't have any competitors. Like, for whatever reason, this vehicle has no true competitors. I mean, the Jeep Wrangler is a toy, frankly, and you make all kinds of compromises. It's not nice to drive, it's loud, it's not comfortable. So that's kind of an ancillary competitor. The Ford Bronco is probably the 4Runner's closest competitor, but that's a brand new vehicle. This is like 15 years old. And again, you make some compromises with the Bronco still. There's still that toy component, and you can't find them. And if you do, they come with a $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 dealer markup. There's the Land Rover Defender, which this 4Runner is $53,000. It's, again, hard to find a base Defender, but you could make that argument that a base Defender in terms of form and function is a kind of competitor to the 4Runner, but still probably not really in a practical sense. Someone looking at one of these, someone interested in one of these, I recommend looking at used vehicles. I recommend cross-shopping a new 4Runner with used vehicles like the Lexus GX, based on the same platform as the 4Runner, very similar to the 4Runner from a mechanical standpoint, but overall a much nicer vehicle with a better powertrain, maybe a little bit easier to live with day to day, but it still kind of lacks the fun component of the 4Runner. Used 200 series Land Cruisers used to be in the conversation, but values of those have skyrocketed recently, so any used 200 you find at this price point is probably going to have 100,000 miles on it or more, or you're looking at a really old one, and some people don't want to do that. As far as trim levels go with the 4Runner, one more thing I want to get out of the way. I don't love this TRD Pro. I think it's a poor value. I think they try to add value to this vehicle by this bright color and by black wheels and by that stupid roof rack and this annoying exhaust. I think the 4Runner to get is the TRD Off-Road with KDSS. Toyota strips KDSS out of the TRD Pro, which is ridiculous. KDSS is like the 4Runner's best feature. It stands for Kinetic Dynamic Suspension System. And what it is a kind of active sway bar system. It's all mechanical, so it's super reliable. That is stiff on the highway where you want it to be stiff, and then it will automatically relax off-road, which allows for greater wheel articulation. For whatever reason, I think it's so that they can build more profit margin into these TRD Pro models, but regardless, they get rid of that system in this TRD Pro, and therefore I think a TRD Off-Road equipped with KDSS, which is an option only on the TRD Off-Road, I think that's where the smart money goes when it comes to the 4Runner. I'm excited for this vehicle to be redesigned. I think the redesign's coming for the 2024 model year. I hope that vehicle has a hybrid component, or at least they offer a hybrid powertrain with an off-road trim level. I think being able to get a vehicle with off-road capability and off-road features that returns, say, I don't know, 26, 30 mpg highway maybe, would be a boon for adventure driven people like me, I guess. But regardless, that's my take on this 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro and on the 5th generation 4Runner as a whole. Thank you for watching.